and I'm so honored today. Actually, three of your hosts here, Bart Warden and Jake Ritter, and I are so honored to be sharing with you J.R. Becker. He is an author of a really lovely children's series, and the books are called Annabelle and Aiden, and they address a lot of different humanist perspectives and themes. There's so much out there, and those of us who have been parents or are interested in education know that there is so much media out there that is religious based, and they have the answers, and those are not resources that our programs lean on. And it's really nice to have JR's common sense and yet also creative and fun books to turn to. They're not dry. They're honestly, they feel a little Seussian sometimes in the rhyming scheme. So they really roll off the tongue as you're reading them and as the kids are reading them. Audrey Kindred is not on right now, but Audrey from the New York Society is the one who first introduced me to JR to tell me that she had him present to her families, and she recommended him strongly for the assembly. And it would be a really neat opportunity for other societies to have him as well. So with that, JR, I think I will go ahead and hand the reins over to you.
This is great. Thank you so much for that generous intro, Trish. And I'm very honored to be here. Wow, my face is very big on my screen right now. Let me see if I could get back to gallery. There we go. That's so much better. So are you all, where are you all right now? Are you all over the country? Okay. Oh, this is so exciting. So I am J.R. Becker. I am a children's book author. I was honored to present at a few of the ethical societies in my area. I'm in North Jersey, so I went to Riverdale, Teaneck, New Jersey, with David Bland and others, and Manhattan with Audrey and Anne when she was there. I've been doing this about 5 or 6 years, and I was really, New Jersey, PA. I'm going to be looking at the chat also, so feel free to ask any questions or share any thoughts, and I will look at that. I actually prepared to read and do a sing-along with children, and you all look very young, but this is a little unexpected. But so because my audience is not merely children today, I'm going to talk a little bit about what I do. Brooklyn. So about 5 years ago, I wanted to write a children's book about evolution, because there were only maybe 1 or 2 existing in the world. So I wrote this. This is called The Story of Life. I did a Kickstarter. I started accepting pre-orders, and I was very excited about it. I found the best illustrator I could possibly find. Her name is Max Rambaldi. I think her real name is Valerie. She lives in Italy, and I still have never met her. And we've worked on 5 books together, which is incredible. The internet is an incredible thing. So this book is on evolution, and it was my first one. I didn't really know what I was doing in the publishing world. I came out with it with minimal success, with moderate success. I sold a few hundred copies, which for me was very exciting. One day I went online and I saw an article banning this book from Ken Ham. He basically condemns this book. You could still find the article online, if you put into Google, well, I could find a chat. Maybe I could put the link. If anyone finds the link, you can put it in the chat. But if you put into Google, Annabelle and Aiden, aggressive atheists, he basically condemns the book and bans the book. It's on Christian World News Network. And I was pretty nervous because I wasn't used to any media attention, let alone negative media attention. I was actually uncomfortable with it. But then sales, I mean, all the comments were people supporting me and saying how ridiculous the ban is, and sales just really increased. It was great. So yeah, oh, someone found it. Okay, it's a hilarious article, basically saying that I am targeting children with Darwinian propaganda, et cetera, et cetera. So after that happened, I was inspired to write a second book on critical thinking and skepticism called Oh, the Things We Believe. And I mailed a copy to Ken Ham saying that he inspired me to write a second book because he loved the first one so much. And I was hoping he would ban this one too, but he didn't get back to me. So that's how we started the Annabelle and Aiden children's book series. And after that, I became very excited. I was gaining support. So the third book, which I will read for you today, is called Worlds Within Us, on the Big Bang and how we're all made of stardust. And usually I appear at Ethical Culture, or hopefully, I hope to do more school readings this year. And I'll read this and I'll do an exercise with the children where I actually take out my guitar and I sing Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, but I change the words to a version that I wrote that really teaches us that we're all made of the same stardust and we're all interconnected. So that's Worlds Within Us. And just because I'm talking to you all, I just want to show you quickly, the next book was the most meaningful for me, book number 4. A lot of secular homeschooling moms really wanted, and parents, but a lot of moms came up to me at one of the secular homeschooling conferences in Atlanta saying they want a book on grief. They want a book on death, a secular book on death, because there are so many faith-based books on grieving and death out there. And so many children are curious about what happens when we die. And I didn't want to write that because I thought it was too big of a task to grapple with delicacy and sensitivity. It's just, that's a hard thing to do. But I found, you know, a few people inspired me. I saw an interview with Neil deGrasse Tyson, and then even more so, an interview with Stephen Fry. Actually, it was I think it was the British Humanist Association has a video with Stephen Fry where he talks about death and mortality and how mortality gives life shape and how it gives us a sense of urgency to celebrate the only life that we know we have and pack as much meaning into it as we possibly can. It really inspired me. Thank you, Trish. So I wrote a book called What Happens When We Die. I didn't want to call it that. I wanted to call it Where Do We Go, or What Happens in the End. And I consulted with many childhood experts, and they told me not to beat around the bush and just to use the word die and just kind of say it as it is. And I did a lot of research for this on both the scientific level and just the social, emotional well-being of children, of what they need to hear and what would be constructive. So this book I came out with, What Happens When We Die. It was far more successful than the previous 3 books. And about a month after I came out with it, someone sent me a video of him reading it at his mother's funeral, which was very, very meaningful for me. I was just a mess. That was very, very impactful. So this, I think, is the most important book that I did. It's called What Happens When We Die. If you all want, I mean, I was going to read this to children today, but if you all have a request, I could read whatever book you all want. But What Happens When We Die is just a very meaningful book to me. After that, quickly, I came out with Sapiens, which is on human evolution. Yeah, this is book number 5. I've come out with a book probably every 10 months over the past 5 years or so. So this is the 5th book, Sapiens. I'm proud of it. The art is beautiful. And this is largely based on Yuval Noah Harari's Sapiens, but many other books by Bill Bryson and Michael Shermer, and just the story of our story, and how we're all connected. We all come from Africa, how the color of our skin is about as arbitrary as the color of our hair and the color of our eyes biologically, how race, obviously culture exists and race history exists, but in a scientific sense, race is very arbitrary, and from a certain perspective doesn't really even exist, at least, with clear lines. So this, all of the books have the common theme of we're all interconnected and we're all the same. And no matter what religions we have or don't have, whatever country we come from, we're all literally related. We're all made from the same stardust, from the Big Bang. We all come from the same ancestors. I'm trying to hold up the evolution book. We all come from Africa. We are all children of Lucy. So that is Sapiens. After that, I came out with a book satirically titled "This World Was Made for Me," which sort of pokes fun at the design argument a little bit, but it's more of an environmental book. And it talks about, it does a few things. It teaches evolution, but it goes through the mass extinctions. And before every mass extinction, the animals that, the world seems so good for them during that time, they basically say, these muddy shores were perfect for their newly formed webbed feet. It's so obvious, they said, that this world was made for me. And then there's a mass extinction because volcanoes or meteors, comets. And then we have the dinosaurs who thought the world was made for them, and they go away, as we all know. And then we have primates, and they think the world is so perfect for them until India crashes into Asia and makes mountains that blocks the rain and turns the forest into a savanna. I see John is laughing at the pile of dead skeletons in a children's book. But then we have one of them survives, and we call her Lucy. She is Australopithecus afarensis, and all humans are ancestors of this species. But then, it talks about how these primates evolved. They started to build cities and wear clothing, et cetera, et cetera. But then at the end, you see human beings saying this world was meant for me, but they're standing on a pile of all the extinct animals before them. So this book is sort of a lesson in humility, by the way. And then Annabelle whispers to Aiden, I think it's getting warmer, right? So it's a cautionary tale, but at the end, it is positive. It talks about how we are all connected, and we are connected with the earth. It says, our world is the way it is, and we manage to adapt. If our world had turned out differently, we would have too, in fact. If our air was grape juice and it was always dark outside, maybe we'd have fins to swim and 4 super-powered eyes. It's our bodies that were shaped by our changing land and sea. Now I get it, Aiden said. This world is what made me. Our world is what shaped us. It's allowed us to visit. It does not belong to us. Rather, we belong to it. We're a strand of a larger web of life and all it does. And if we are good to it, then it will be good to us. So this is a cautionary tale. It's a humbling tale, but it's also inspiring to take care of our earth. Thank you for posting my website, Jake. It also gives the puddle analogy. I just have to share that quick. So basically, Aiden in this book is a character that says this world, there's oxygen in the air, which is perfect for our lungs to breathe. Everything just seems made for us. Skeptosaurus, who's a popular character in my book, he's a dinosaur that brings them back to Earth. The Skeptosaurus then explained, It just looks that way right now, that this world was built for us, but it's the other way around. You're thinking like a puddle who sees the hole he's in and excitedly declares how its shape was made for him. So that's the famous puddle analogy. So that is This World Was Made for Me. Thank you, Ruth Ann. Okay, after that, I came out with a book. I thought that, you know, after about 10 months after coming out with any book, I wonder if anyone's still reading them, if there's demand for more. I thought nothing would be as successful as What Happens When We Die. But after that, I came out with basically comparative religion for children. It's called Oh My Gods, A History of Belief. And it was difficult to make this because my illustrator became too busy with other projects and commitments she had. I had to find a new illustrator that was close enough to the old style, but good enough to maintain that quality. And I found an illustrator that I think is far better. I mean, this book has better art than any of my other books. It's just, I'm so grateful to Marissa. She lives in Connecticut. I still never met her, but we worked online. I paid about 5 times more than I had in the past for illustrations, but it was well worth it. I mean, this is like Pixar quality stuff. So I was so happy with this. And this sold far more than any other book. It was really something. A lot of people wanted, just a very unbiased, historical, evidence-based book on a history of belief. So this is called Oh My Gods, A History of Belief. And those are all my books. Is that it? So that is, thank you. That is 7 books. And actually we have an 8th book coming out soon. It's actually printed now and it's being shipped overseas to my house, about 1,000 copies. I will show you the cover if I could share my screen. Let's try that. Share screen. Okay. Wow, now you get to see all my stuff. So it's called There's a Dragon in My Garage. Let me close this. Covers. This is inspired by the Carl Sagan dragon metaphor. It's called There's a Dragon in My Garage, a critical thinking tale, and we're very excited about that. And we're also making stuffed tardigrades. I'm ordering about 500 stuffed tardigrade toms for children to have with the books. So that'll be so much fun. So that's basically all my books. You are screen sharing, stop share. Okay, so that is basically what I've been doing for the past 6 years, every night from 8 p.m. to midnight. That is what we are. We are Annabelle and Aiden. You could go to annabelleandaiden.com. I'm going to read us a book. If you all have any requests, you could put it in the comments. And Trish, if you have any ideas about what book I should read, the one that I usually read is Worlds Within Us on the Big Bang. We could start with that. And if you all have a request for a second book, I could do that. And if anyone has any questions, feel free to put them in the comments. So I'm so glad you all are here. So this is called Worlds Within Us. Oh, you know what? I'm gonna do a screen share and I'm gonna open so you all could see the illustrations. Share. Can you all see that okay? Perfect. Okay. Annabelle and Aiden gazed at the sky, at moons and stars and comets so high. Wow, Aiden said, almost dropping his drink. Annabelle stared and started to think. How'd they get there, these moons and rocks scattered above us like so many dots? Aiden shrugged. They must have come when people came along. I feel they're here just for us, and my feelings can't be wrong. Ha ha ha, the children said. The name's Tardigrade Tom. They've been here the whole time, long before your great-grandmom. You just showed up, the stars and I, so long we've had to wait. to show you all the stuff you missed. I figured you'd be late. And that's showing children that humans basically just showed up. Tardigrades have been around for a long time. Aiden said, I'll hear their tale, but they make me feel small. The world's so big, how could we know if we matter at all? One second. Well, Tom said, before it grew, the whole world was smaller than you. A long time ago, there was diddly squat, just nothing at all except one tiny dot. Can you find it? Ruth Ann is smiling at that. I think she found the dot. By the way, in most of my illustrations, hidden inside the illustrations are scientific and historic footnotes for adults to read and teenagers. So you could see that there. Talks about what is nothing. All the stuff in the world, everything you've ever seen, from juggling bears to monkey hairs and every jelly bean, and mops and cops and baseball bats. My favorite socks and Miss Reynolds' cats were squeezed and squished and mashed and mushed into that dot, into that spot. Small, but so heavy, like millions of gifts wrapped up in hippos that no one could lift. It got so squished, it needed more room. So it pushed, and it sort of went boom or bang. I'd call it a great expansion, like Hilbert's balloons at his hotel mansion. In just 1 second, quarks turn to stuff like protons and neutrons that are just enough for hydrogen atoms in millions of years to form gases and dust as the burning heat clears. Stars are born babies, just like us. They live their lives, then die without fuss. They fall apart and come together, forming planets like Earth with crazy weather. And from the Earth come you and me. We're made of stars now, can't you see? Aiden says, great, but I do have to say, all of those stars seem so far away. Oh, but they're in us, our bones and our skin, and even those rocks you're now sitting in. You're feeling the stuff from the bodies of folks who lived long ago and stood like great oaks, and also the people who have yet to be. They'll come from our bones, these rocks, and those trees. We are all interconnected. And all of us come from the same exact place, the Earth, which came from the stars out in space, who were kind enough to explode into shards that join to make up everything that we are. So when you feel small, that you don't matter much, no stars are inside you, whole worlds you can touch. Did you know you hold the strength of hydrogen bombs, or that there's parts of different stars in each of your palms? You're made of pieces that used to be part of dinosaurs, Shakespeare, or Amelia Earhart. You are the world experiencing itself, so do not feel small or left on a shelf. I love that. We're made of our world, its mountains and wells, so the way that we treat it is how we treat ourselves. There's worlds within us you would not believe. Everyone that was and that ever will be are all within you and came from the stars, and that's just how big and amazing you are. Yay. So that is Worlds Within Us. Kathleen asked me what age children these are aimed at. So I actually did not come to this with such a business mind. I kind of just wrote from the heart, and I wasn't like thinking of a certain children age target. But I would say that for children's books, these are better for the older children. So ages 4 and under, they're going to enjoy the art and they'll still enjoy it. But these books are really for probably ages 5 and up. Even a 10-year-old, a 12-year-old, a 15-year-old, even people our age enjoy them. A lot of people read them and say they learned things that they didn't know before. And I mean, when I'm writing them, I learned so much that I didn't know before. I had to do the research and sort of break it down in a certain way. And I try to bring in facts that a lot of adults would say, you know, wow, why aren't people talking about this more? That is so neat, you know? So that is Worlds Within Us. This is the front cover. That's Annabelle looking at the Big Bang and space. And that's Aiden on the back. And I want you all to take a vote. Well, if you have any questions, put them in there. Patty, I'm going to get to that. In the meantime, I want you all to take a vote as to which of these two I should read next, because we are all mature adults here, and these are big concepts. And I wrote these for children, but we could do What Happens When We Die, or we could do Oh My Gods, A History of Belief. So far, we have 2 against 2. So we need a tiebreaker. We need a tiebreaker. Teacher's lesson plan. So, oh wow, there's a lot of votes coming in. This is fun. Patty said, so a lot of people ask me, I should make a curriculum. I actually started to make worksheets. So from AnnabelleandAiden.com for like $3, someone could download about 6 or 7 worksheets I have that that children could do with the books. So that's the closest I've gotten. But people are always telling me that I should write a curriculum. But that is a large task that I haven't done yet. And I feel like that requires different skills than I have. So I'm just not sure. But maybe Trish could help me. We will see. Maybe some of you could help me. Okay, let's count the votes. Wow. All right. What happens when we die? When we die, when we die. Oh my gods, oh my gods, die, die, oh my gods. I think What Happens When We Die won. So maybe I could read, maybe if we have time, I could read both, but let's do Oh My Gods. And I'm going to share my screen because the art for this is just fantastic. I'm very grateful to my, hold on. I'm grateful to my illustrator for doing this.
Did you stay for your next book too, JR?
What's that?
Did you stay with her for your next book, or did you go back to your original?
For the next book, I went back to the old one because the new illustrator was giving, she had a baby and it was a early preemie, so she was in the hospital for a while. So I went back to the old one. Actually, the old one was so busy that I started the Carl Sagan book with the old one around the same exact time as I started this one with the new illustrator. So they were doing it at the same time. But I do think that I'm always thinking of future books. I will definitely go with this illustrator in the future because she just did such a great job. And the Carl Sagan one also is sort of a whimsical fictional tale that takes place in a garage. So I didn't think it was worth it to pay an illustrator for the most gorgeous garage. I mean, it's more of a it's more about the dialogue and a whimsical tale that takes place pretty much entirely in a garage. But I'm thinking of doing a book on aliens and the search for extraterrestrial life with this illustrator. So, but yeah, I'm definitely going to go with this illustrator probably for the future because my first illustrator is just too busy anyway. Okay, finished pages. Here we go. And let's share my screen. How do I get back to, okay, 1 second. Share screen. Here we go. Could everybody see this? Okay, thanks for the thumbs up, Jim. Okay, perfect. Okay. Oh my God, A History of Belief. Here we go. This is our newest book that I actually am selling right now. Okay, there we have all that's inside the front cover. I love Ruth Ann's smile and reaction to everything because it's such joy. It makes me so happy. Oh, wait, why isn't this working? Okay.
I'm honestly so excited, JR.
Aw.
So excited. Bart, we're buying everything, right, babe?
Aw. Okay, why isn't this?
So am I, Ruth Ann, for my 10-year-old granddaughter.
Aw. Okay, as Annabelle and Aiden played outside one cloudy day, Aiden held up a toy tree and he made the toy tree say, "I'm a happy, tall old tree. I'm so peaceful and so wise, with big branches for my arms and small tree knots for my eyes." Annabelle then wondered why, if toys are just plain things, why do we all pretend that they have actual feelings? Oh, like with this sad blue car?
We're not seeing the illustrated pages. We're seeing one page that has a bunch of gods on it, which is lovely. But are there other pages we're supposed to see?
Okay. I'm glad you told me that. Okay. Screen share. Okay. Here we go. I'm glad you told me that. You know what? I'm just gonna do this a different way. I'm glad you told me that now and not in 10 minutes. Full interior. Here we go. This is gonna take some time to load though, but that's okay. Where we go? Full interior.
Well,
I love how
Mike, Trish, did we have any plans on, or you, how we might use these books?
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
I have some art ideas, and I will assemble those and share those. I really love the idea of like incorporating some creative projects in with these stories. So they're the book's about like why we look the way we do, and how we're all unique. We can absolutely develop some ideas for kids to create their own creatures or to make some self-portraits. Galaxy pictures would be gorgeous if you use a black background and then splatter different colors of paint on them. Very easy for children to do, lots of fun. So I'll be sharing those ideas with you all. I think that would be really, really rich activities.
Great. Thank you, Trish. This is exciting.
It is exciting, isn't it?
It is.
Thank you all. Okay, so share screen. I think I got it figured out now. Yes. Okay. Okay, let's try that again. Could you all see the illustration? Perfect. Okay. Annabelle and Aiden played on the grass one cloudy day. Aiden held a plastic toy and he made the small tree say, "I'm a happy, tall old tree. I'm at peace and I'm so wise. I've got branches for my arms and small tree knots for my eyes." Annabelle then paused and asked, "If these play toys are not real, why does everyone pretend they could think and talk and feel?" "Oh, like how this car is sad? I'm not sure. That's how we play." But then tardigrade Tom said, "Humans grew to think this way. As we first formed long ago, and our brains all slowly grew, soon we grasped that others had thoughts and feelings like we do. To conceive how others felt, this was something very new, but we took this way too far, thinking things had feelings too." So this is very important. This is actually the very beginning of human thought concerning spirits or anything of that nature, supernatural. "We thought everything could feel, rocks and clouds and ants and trees. We thought mountains all had souls, as did rivers, suns, and seas. This is called animism. So this, you actually would have to turn the book vertical. Yeah, Jim, don't hurt your neck though. As we fretted over food, hunting animals as prey, we asked creatures for their help through their spirits in this way. So it's hard to see on the side, but this is shamanism. In these smoky, airless caves, we fell deep into a trance. Shamans called the spirits down as we swayed in flowing dance. So basically, early humans were hunters, and a common theme through every religion and belief system is that our beliefs and our gods and our prayers are all centered on our biggest fears and concerns. If we're worried about death, we are thinking about an afterlife. If we worried about hunting and food, which is back then, we would take the animal bones and we would burn them and make fires and try to chant to the animal spirits that they should be caught, that they should allow us to hunt them and catch them and eat them for nourishment. So that is shamanism. But over time, we changed spirits into gods. Now we're going to Mesopotamia. We changed spirits into gods who we thought controlled our fates. So these are the first actual gods. Making them relatable, we assigned them human traits. Like Enlil, the god of storms, or his dad, the sky god Anu, or Aya's spouse, the sun god Shamash, who was later called Utu. We made thousands of these gods, each with temples filled with food. So we learned to farm and write to keep track of all accrued. Many people think that farming, which is probably the #1 most important invention, quote unquote, that humans ever had, because we stopped being wanderers and gatherers and we settled down. Many people think that farming and written language were largely spurned or caused by religion, by trying to build these huge temples and coordinate all of that work and all the accounting for all of the sacrifices and food that we would give to the gods. But then once we started farming and we settled down, life got easier. This is my favorite spread. I love this art. But as life got easier and we learned how to get by, our fears changed from present threats to what happens when we die. So to keep their bodies clean, we all mummified our kings. Then we placed them in huge tombs buried with their favorite things. For the afterlife we dreamed, where we fly across the sky, side by side with gods like Ra, Isis, Shu, or Kentek Tai. So it is really the Egyptians that we think invented the idea of an afterlife. And in Greece, we traded tales of the gods that were quite wild, like when Zeus swallowed his wife so she wouldn't have a child. But he got a headache and birthed Athena from his head. If you thought that yours were weird, try these families instead. Okay, now we're going to more organized religion a little bit. In Iran, we worshiped gods like Farsata and Attar, but one man there disagreed, so he left and wandered far, till a river blocked his path. Here he claimed something quite odd. Through a light, a vision came, telling him there's just one God. The first prophet of our time, Zoroaster was his name. He spoke of a golden age, but these teachings gave him fame. That Ahura Mazda is the sole God anyone needs, and he taught to fight evil with good words, good thoughts, good deeds. So in Zoroastrianism, which is probably one of, or the world's oldest quote unquote religion, organized religion, that's something that they say, that there are still Zoroastrians today. Actually, where does it say? In Iran and India, there's about 200,000 of them, mostly in Iran and India, but they're everywhere. And they spread the idea of having good words, good thoughts, and good deeds. But these ideas reached India, and the afterlife changed to being reborn after death every time as someone new, right? Reincarnation. But this changed to benefit just the rich folks at the top, right? In Hinduism, they have the caste system. Like Siddhartha, a young prince who said, this has got to stop. So he left home alone one night, left his newborn son and wife. He saw sickness and old age for the first time in his life. Sitting underneath a tree, he began to meditate until answers came to him. It took 49 days straight. He taught heaven is a state anybody could achieve when we do not focus on things we haven't yet received, right? So not exactly heaven, but he taught us to be happy with what we have and not desire things that we don't. Here we go to the Middle East. Also, Middle Eastern tribes worshipped many gods as well, like Baal, Asherah, Yahweh, Yam, Malach, Inara, and El. Israelites praised those gods too, all while split in two nations. By the way, I'm Jewish, and I had no idea that Jews were polytheists in these times. So the Jews, the Israelites, praised a lot of the gods in the Middle East, a lot of the Canaanite gods that were worshipped in neighboring civilizations, and they were split into different nations. So Israelites praised those gods too, all while split in two nations, both of which suffered attacks from nearby populations, right? The Babylonians and the Assyrians. When their temple got destroyed, to survive, there was one way. They united into one, choosing one God named Yahweh. And they merged their texts as well, adding stories from the past. For the first time, the idea of a single God would last. So now we have monotheism, which, by the way, was not new. There was an Egyptian ruler named Akhenaten that was a strict monotheist, but the Egyptians basically executed him and got rid of monotheism. But now we have monotheism again, and the Jews merged stories and wrote the Bible. And in the Bible, you will see many stories that are repeats of older stories from Mesopotamia, like the Noah's flood story, which is very interesting. You could read those stories now and see the parallels. Then the Greeks and Romans ruled with a brutal iron fist. Jewish groups rose up to fight, lead revolts, and resist. Fears of battle came and grew. Prophets rose and came and went. One Jew promised paradise free to all who would repent. A pure kingdom of heaven after war will end these times. Rome did not like this at all, so they tried him for his crimes. Then he died, but days later, some claimed something very odd. They said he came back to life since he was the Son of God. We are all familiar with this. Prophets said all different things. People argued, even warred, over whether gods exist, whether two or three or more. Like in Mecca, in this town, hundreds of stone idols stood, but one man would not bow down, even though folks said he should. So he left to meditate in a cave not far away. Then he claimed an angel came and that he had heard it say, God is one as others taught. All will end, as Jesus said. He'll return when trumpets play. That's when God will raise the dead. And we have Muhammad in the cave. Now things get fun. He said he's the final prophet, but still new ones come and go everywhere. Yes, even in the America we know. Near New York, an angel's voice, claimed a boy named Joseph Smith, said to find some magic stones and the gold plates they came with. A Montana writer claimed that some aliens were dropped in volcanoes and their souls have escaped and must be stopped. Yeah, I couldn't write this book without having Mormonism and Scientology because it's just too much fun. Here we go. Annabelle and Eden thought, gazing in a nearby pond. Their reflections all looked back, causing Eden to respond. All the gods we ever praised, all the heavens and the hells, promises of afterlives are just stories of ourselves. From our earliest concerns, needing rain and food and crops, to our questions why we're here and where we go after it stops. Gods reflect our governments and our kings and families, our ideas of right and wrong, and our quirks and jealousies. Now, some folks believe in God, others say there's two or more. Some don't think there's any, but here's one thing we know for sure. They're a part of our shared past. They bring out our best and worst. So to learn about ourselves, we could study our gods first. That is all. That is Oh My Gods. And it's not only, thank you, it's not only a history of religion, but it's also why. It's also getting to the core of who we are and why the gods that we create are the way they are through history. So that is that. And that was a lot of fun. If anyone has any questions. Yes, Rich said really good. So that is Oh My Gods, A History of Belief. And we could read What Happens When We Die if y'all want. No, people don't have to stay longer than they want. I just want to say that all of the books are available at annabelleandaiden.com. And if you buy the whole set, it comes very discounted. So that is Oh My Gods. Does anyone have any questions or anything? A short course in comparative mythology, Joy says. Yes. But I also, like I said, I wanted it to be more than that as well. And my books, I try to give data and information, but then I really want to get to the core of like, what does this mean? What does this say about us? So that's something that I try to do. Thank you, Jake, for posting a link for the website, Annabelle and Eden, because there's a lot of ways to spell both of those names. Those are the names of my children as well.
And I think people can raise their hand electronically or wave frantically and you'll be noticed.
All right. Wave frantically for what? For this one? Or for any?
And as a question.
Oh, yes, Ruth Ann, yes.
Okay, JR, thank you so much for writing these wonderful books and for this wonderful presentation. Obviously, I'm so excited. I have a very nice relationship with the children's librarians in my local library because of teaching in our Sunday school for so long. This is making me want to go back and do that again. But I wondered, for sure, when I get these books, I'm running over to my library with them. And I wondered to what extent you've been able to get these books into libraries.
That's a great question. I need to do that more.
Okay.
A lot of parents that are fans of the books go into their library and you could ask them to buy it. They'll buy it. So that's the best thing that you could do. Ordering them is great as well, but you could go in and say, could you get the Annabelle and Eden books and show them the website. They're also available on Amazon. If you want, you could tell them, I'm gonna enter my personal email address into chat right now, which is kind of crazy. Don't make me regret it, people. But Trisha's like, no, but that's it. I'm kidding. She didn't do that. You could tell the library to contact me if they will carry the books. I'll send them a set, or I'll send them a few. Yeah. Oh, you're muted. You're muted now. But you could also
Thank you,
tell them to
JR.
buy them themselves, you know.
Yeah,
Either.
yeah.
JR is wondering if there's anything we can do to get more books banned. That seemed to be very helpful.
I wish I knew. I wish I knew. You could send them to Kemhan and, you know, maybe he'll sell them in the ARC gift shop.
JR, somebody noted that the last panel, I think it's so neat the way you incorporate the real faces of people.
Yes.
Somebody noted that the last panel had very few people of color.
Yes.
Are you thinking of addressing that in the future?
Yes, absolutely. So here's the thing. So for all of my books, I do a Kickstarter campaign, which is a website that people could pre-order the book. I don't know, Trish, you might already know this. I don't know. But during the Kickstarter campaign, I allow anybody from the public to pay about $50 or $60 to get their children's face in the book, which is a very fun way to have people be part of the book. So I do not control who does that. So that is the explanation. However, that concern has been, so that's a very fun thing that we do. And, these are the readers. Let me find the page. Oh, wrong book. Yeah, so those are the readers that pre-ordered my book, and it also gives them a chance to really be part of it. Right. So I don't control who does that. And I felt uncomfortable making some sort of strange race require, I didn't want to like give discounts to, it gets weird to do like affirmative action for that kind of, it would have been weird to sort of dictate who gets in. So I don't control that. Anyone does that. However, that is a concern that that's been brought to me before, especially on the last page of Sapiens, because the book Sapiens is literally about how we're all related and we're all connected, and how it talks about skin color in the book, how it's a result of ultraviolet rays and climate and where our ancestors live. And then on the last book, I have how we're all ancestors of Lucy. And there are children of color in here, but it's not as diverse as I would have liked. So that is a legitimate and great concern that I think about how I could make it more diverse in the future. Maybe it could be, going into Google Images and taking from, certain licensable stock photos. I don't know.
People
have
with
any
this committee could
ideas.
be invited to send pay for pictures for other children.
That's a good idea. Absolutely. Yeah, maybe I can make that one of the rewards. Absolutely. Yeah, no, I appreciate that concern, and it's something I have as well. So that's definitely, I'm glad y'all spoke out about that because it's important. And who wrote Flying Spaghetti Monster? That made me so happy. John. John noticed that in Oh My God, there's the all popular, that guy. There you go. So Joy is laughing. Are there any other questions? What is the target age? Oh, I answered that. Yes, Rich. Just unmute. Make sure you're unmuted.
Well, that was my question. What target age are you looking at for children?
So like I said, I didn't really target a certain age deliberately, but it turns out that older kids like my books the most. They get the most out of them because they're large concepts. I mean, evolution, what happens when we die, these are big concepts. I talk about meaning and free will. So while younger children really enjoy the pictures, they enjoy all ages, but ages 5 to 10, I would say, is more the sweet spot.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah,
And you have additional facts in there for older kids to, it can grow as the children grow.
Exactly. Right. Hidden in the illustrations are a lot of scientific and historical footnotes for people to enjoy as they get older. So the books grow with the kids. Yeah.
I had a question about music. Since you were playing Twinkle Twinkle, are there other songs that you do as well? And is that part of your standard gig?
So I'm still thinking about what I should do. But Worlds Within Us, I was trying to compose a tune for, I mean, all my books are written in verse, so it's relatively easy to sing them. So I was actually trying to compose a verse for the last words of Worlds Within Us, which is basically, there's worlds within us you would not believe. Everyone that was and that ever will be are all within you and came from the stars. And that's just how big and amazing you are. And my wife said that it would be too confusing for children to learn new words with a new melody. So I should choose an old melody. And I realized those words go pretty well with Rockabye Baby, which everybody knows. So I'm gonna have to try that out on guitar and figure that out. But I wanna do a sing-along of that and the Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. And that would be 2 songs. And that's what I'm working on. So if there are no other questions, we could read What Happens When We Die. Does anyone have other questions? Okay, all right. What happens when we die? I'm gonna open that up and share my screen. And hopefully it'll be more smooth than last time. Here we are. What happens when we die? Finished pages. Let me see if this works. Yes, it's working well. Okay. Okay, here we go. Share screen. Here we go. So before I share the screen, I'll show the cover one more time. This is called What Happens When We Die. Can everybody see the illustration? Annabelle and Eden peek outside through their large window. Through the trees, they see a bird flying far too low. The wind blows hard behind its wings. It's going way too fast. It tries to fly over the house, but bangs into the glass. Could you all see the next illustration? Okay. They run outside to find the bird. They see its crooked bill, its eyes closed, its belly up, its body silent still. Oh my gosh, what should we do? Do you think that it's dead? Let's find our friends to help us out, young Eden quickly said. All the friends were gathered and stood around that bird. Even Tom was deep in thought and not a sound was heard. Annabelle asked, what happens when we have to say goodbye? What happens when we leave this life? What happens when we die? Eden said, this makes me scared. I may need to pretend that even though our brains turn off, that this is not the end. Maybe there's a magic part of us that floats above, that sees, hears, and feels the things that dreamers can speak of. Maybe to a place filled with chocolate kangaroos and cookie hats and flying fish and pink marshmallow shoes. And bullies go to a place where beds are full of ants, where toenail soup is all they eat in prickly underpants. Some of you are laughing and some of you are not, and I'll take it. Skeptosaurus says, maybe, but is there evidence? Anything's possible, but do you think it makes sense? We don't yet have much reason to think any of that's true, at least not nearly as much as for why we would want to. But before you cry or whine, complain, moan, or bawl, learn the things we do know, the greatest things of all. You'll see the truth is just as great. You don't have to pretend. You're right about one thing, my boy, that death is not the end. This is my favorite illustration here. While your brain and your body may have had their last act, their energy never dies. That's a scientific fact. Your atoms will spread out to rejoin the universe. As flowers or rain showers, or as stardust, they'll disperse. Every piece of you stays right here. That doesn't change. The only difference might be you're just differently arranged. Every single vibration that you've ever made, every particle or atom that bounced off your face, or was swayed by your smile, or the touch of your hair, will be forever changed by you. That will always be there. With the memories you leave for the people that you love, whom you have changed forever in more ways than you dream of. Fine, young Aiden said, right? He's my skeptical character. But our bodies will be changed. True, said Skeptosaurus. Yes, quite differently arranged. But even now, as you live, it changes every day. You get new bones, skin, and lips as the old ones shed away. So the footnotes actually say that we get a new stomach lining every week. We get new hair every 2 to 7 years. Our entire skeleton is replaced with new cells every 10 years, et cetera, et cetera. So things are always changing. True, said Skeptosaurus. Sadly, that will be no more. But you won't miss it at all. Oh, I'm sorry, I skipped. Fine, Eden said. Oh, but what will it feel like to no longer be alive, to love and play and bike? True, said Skeptosaurus. Sadly, that will be no more. But you won't miss it at all, just like before you were born. Still, Annabelle said, how much better would it be, oh, if we could live forever, all the things that we could see. I'd go to Paris and New York and eat every different food, drive a boat around the world, and fly in a hot air balloon. I'd always stay a little girl. My friends' hands I'd always hold. I'd spend time with those I love, and I'd watch as they grow old. But then what, said Wise Owl. Oh, but then what would you do? Would it still feel good to play more games or eat another food? Would you enjoy a candy 1,000,000 miles thick, or a cake that never ended? Why, I think you would get sick. A story with no end isn't too much fun to read. The same goes for the ones we live. So children, please take heed. One thing that makes things special is knowing that they end. That's what makes our lives so precious, and each moment with our friends. So eat that cake, sled that hill, laugh so hard it hurts your chest. And to others and yourself, you should be our very best. I'm sorry. And to yourself and others, you should be our very best. Appreciate small things like the sunlight in your hair, or wild piggyback rides, and all the things we get to share. Oh, how lucky that we're here. We get to give it our best shot. Like this bird, how he soared, how he gave it all he got. Now he'll change to something else from our fair blue-feathered friend. But his energy and atoms, well, their journey never ends. Goodbye, bird, Aiden smiled. We won't ever forget you. But now it's time for us to go. There's so much for us to do. That is it. Yay. And there are the quotes that inspired me to do that book. Let me go back to gallery. I just want to thank everyone for coming. This was a lot of fun and meaningful for me to be able to share what I'm doing a little bit. All of the books are at annabelleandaiden.com, as you all shared before. Thank you, John. People find that book moving as well. And does anyone have any other questions or comments? Thanks for all the positive comments in the chat. And we got through 3 books, so that's exciting.
Yeah, your voice must be
A little bit.
yes.
I've been a bibliophile my whole life, and I would have loved to have these books as a child, but now I can share them with others. And thank you so much. This has been so fun and so enlightening. And if I were still a Sunday school director, they'd be at our library the next week.
Oh, thank you, Joy. That means a lot to me. I appreciate it. Yay.
Louise just bought them during this. This is fantastic.
Oh, thank you, Louise. You know, anyone who gets them now too, or even if you don't want to get them, but in a month you do, I will sign them. So Louise, when I get your, Louise, if you want me to sign them to anyone in, if you want me to write anyone's name in it, you could put that in the chat. Anybody who wants, just send me, honestly, just send me an email. Again, here is my personal email. And I'm happy to sign those books to whoever you like. Yes, thank you, Rebecca. And thanks for spreading the word. And I really want to thank you all, because every time, you know, I write a book and then, you know, there's excitement, people buy it, and then many, many months pass and, you know, people start to forget about them and I start to sort of forget about them. You know, and then, oh, should I do another book? Do people still want these? Basically, I suffer from imposter syndrome. So I appreciate the support and I appreciate the kind words, and it means a lot to me. And it is that support that allows these books to keep going and keep existing. So I really appreciate all of you.
And JR, you are in New Jersey, right?
Yes.
So JR is available. We've got several ethical societies in that area. If anybody would like to host him or plan kind of a regional event, that would be fabulous. Are you able to travel outside of the region? We've got
Yes.
society in St. Louis. Yeah.
What about that?
Yes, we would have to talk about that, depending on how far it is and how that would work. But sure.
Sweet.
Absolutely.
We could use Zoom. I mean, Zoom, you're open to doing maybe some Zoom presentations?
Absolutely. Yes. That would
We
be great.
also have a number of societies near you that can do hybrid. So if you wanted to do something that was more of a presentation that involved a bunch of people and that sort of thing, it's possible to do it at one of the societies and also broadcast it to another one.
Oh, that's smart. That's smart. I mean, I went to the society in Teaneck just a month ago and did a read along and sing along with the children. I spoke to the adults there about 2 years ago. You know, so I'm going every year or two to each one in my area.
Okay.
But if there are others in different areas, I would love to do a Zoom session or maybe go there in person.
Yeah.
You know, so that would be great. That would be a lot of fun. Thank you, Rich. Rich wrote, "What happens when we die is relevant to those of us who have recently lost loved ones, especially I just lost my 101-year-old father." I'm sorry to hear that, Rich. It was difficult to listen to the book without tearing up. Oh, thank you, Rich. Thanks for sharing that.
This audience, I know that you were expecting to have some younger ones. I'm sure they're busy with camp and all kinds of stuff. But actually, I think it's been really special having this audience, because you do touch, and I want you to know that you touch more than just children. Your words are meaningful for all of us and important for all of us.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm trying to bring the heart out of science. Carl Sagan has been the biggest inspiration for me. I just feel like what he says, I mean, you have the scientists on the one hand giving data and trying to, you know, make it relatable. And then you have the anti, superstition, anti that, other people on the other side. But then you have a sweet middle of making, I don't know if you want to use the word spirituality or whatever, but just making science with heart and making it relatable to our human experience. And I feel like no one's ever done that better than Carl Sagan has. Neil deGrasse Tyson and Bill Nye and Cara Santa Maria and there are other science communicators, but yeah, all of that just inspires me, and that's what I'm trying to do for children. That that hate and bigotry and racism, and it really just comes from ignorance. It's not, saying we're all related is not a metaphor. We're literally evolved from the same ancestors. Biologically, we are all related. And our governments and our religions and our countries' borders are all human constructs. And the facts that unite us are so much deeper. And that's just something that's very important to me. And also a curiosity of, we could tell fairy tales and nursery rhymes. And fiction is very important for the imagination. But I'm also trying to show children that reality is just as exciting and just as magical. That's a lot of what my second book, wherever that is, it's called Oh, the Things We Believed. And it talks about how we thought storks deliver babies, and we're on a flat earth that's on the back of turtles, et cetera, and how the scientific method has progressed, and how reality is more exciting than those fairy tales, how we're all related, made from the same stardust, and all of that is just very exciting to me. So thank you all. Thank you, Rebecca. Rebecca says she has to head out, and I think we're out of time. But that's the main message, and I just wanted to thank you all.
Thank you so much, JR, and thank you everybody for being here.
Thank you. We will be in touch. Reach out to me anytime, and you all have my email address. I'd love to hear from you.
And we will have this recording available, won't we, Jake and Bart? Yeah.
Yeah, is there a problem sending that recording since we have your books in it?
I don't think so.
No? Okay.
Just don't start selling the video to lots of people.
Without a
no,
royalty.
not at all, Bart. I'm happy to spread the love. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Wonderful. We really appreciate it. Thank you all.